At 4:30 a.m., while most people sleep for 2 more hours, Amish women are already working in the dark. By the time sunrise arrives, they've completed tasks that would exhaust modern women. These 10 hidden chores reveal why Amish days start in complete darkness. Lighting the first fires. The Amish woman's day begins in complete darkness at 4:30 a.m., when most of America sleeps soundly. She wakes to an internal rhythm developed over years of identical routines. The bedroom temperature hovers between 35 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit. There is no thermostat to adjust, no electric heat to turn on. The cold is absolute and immediate. Her first task is lighting the kitchen wood stove. She descends stairs in darkness, carrying an oil lamp. The kitchen feels like a walk-in freezer. The wood stove sits cold and dead, its fire from the previous evening reduced to ash. Starting the fire requires skill and precision. Kindling must be arranged to allow proper airflow. She strikes a match, and in the darkness, the small flame seems impossibly bright. If the fire catches properly, warmth will begin spreading within 30 minutes. This invisible labor happens every morning regardless of season. No one in her family witnesses this work. They sleep while she battles the cold and darkness to create the warmth that will greet them when they wake. Hauling first water. With the fire beginning to catch, she faces the next critical task, hauling water for the day's cooking needs. In old order Amish communities that reject indoor plumbing, every drop of water must be carried by hand from outdoor wells or pumps. In darkness, in winter cold, that freezes the pump solid overnight. She wraps herself in a heavy shawl and steps outside into pre-dawn darkness. The outdoor pump has frozen overnight. She pours warm water saved from the previous evening over the pump mechanism to thaw the ice that's locked it solid. The metal handle feels like ice even through her gloves. The first few pumping motions are stiff and difficult. Her breath creates clouds in the frigid air. Her hands begin to ache from the cold and repetitive motion. She makes multiple trips, carrying 2-gallon buckets that weigh over 16 pounds each. The path between pump and house becomes treacherous, where spilled water has frozen into ice. This work remains completely invisible to her family, who awake to find water already available. Checking livestock. With water hauled and fire burning, she makes another trip into the darkness, this time to the barn. The animals cannot wait for daylight or convenience. They require checking to ensure they survive the night without injury or illness. She walks the familiar path to the barn in complete darkness, carrying her oil lamp. Inside, the temperature is only marginally warmer than outside. She checks each animal quickly but thoroughly, looking for signs of distress or illness. Collecting eggs happens now as well, despite the darkness making the task more difficult. The hens roosting in their boxes startle at her approach. She reaches carefully into nests, feeling for eggs that are sometimes still warm, sometimes frozen solid. Animal water troughs have frozen overnight. She uses tools to break through ice layers, allowing the animals to drink. This task must be repeated multiple times throughout the day, but the morning breaking is critical because animals have gone all night without water access. Preparing breakfast ingredients. Returning to the house, which now feels almost warm compared to the outdoor cold, she begins the complex choreography of breakfast preparation for a family of 8 to 10 people. Substantial preparation work must happen while the family still sleeps. Bread baked the previous day must be sliced. She cuts thick slices for sandwiches and thinner pieces for toast. Potatoes for frying must be peeled and sliced. She peels methodically in the lamplight, working by feel as much as sight. Oatmeal gets measured into the large pot. Milk is poured and ready. Coffee preparation happens now, staged so her husband will have hot coffee waiting. The table gets set in the dim lamplight, dishes arranged for efficient serving. This preparation work remains completely invisible to the family. They see only the finished breakfast appearing on the table, not the hour of advance work in darkness that made that service possible. The timing is critical because children must eat and leave for school on schedule. Mixing bread dough. While breakfast preparations proceed, another task happens simultaneously: mixing dough for the day's bread. This work must begin before dawn because bread requires hours from mixing to finished loaves. Waiting until after breakfast would mean bread not ready until late afternoon. She measures flour by feel and experience in the dim lamplight. Yeast, water, salt get added in proportions she's made thousands of times. Her hands begin the rhythmic kneading that will continue for 10 to 15 minutes. The kneading motion builds heat in her arms and shoulders. The dough transforms under her hands from rough mixture to smooth, elastic mass. She positions it near the now warm wood stove to encourage rising, covering it with a clean cloth. This bread will feed her family for multiple meals throughout the day. The cost savings compared to store-bought bread reaches hundreds of dollars annually, making this pre-dawn labor economically essential. Feeding wood stoves. The kitchen stove that she lit first thing requires constant attention, but other stoves throughout the house need feeding as well. The living room stove provides heat for the main living area. Each requires wood to maintain heat through the cold morning hours. She carries wood from the outdoor supply, making multiple trips through the darkness. If the wood pile is running low, she may need to split kindling, a task requiring axe work in pre-dawn darkness by lamplight. The art of stove management requires constant judgment. Too much wood wastes fuel and creates excessive heat. Too little allows temperatures to drop. She's learned through years of experience exactly how much wood each stove needs to maintain proper temperature without waste. Some nights, when temperatures drop to extreme lows or when family members are sick, she rises multiple times during the night to feed fires that would otherwise die completely. The economic pressure of fuel costs means every piece of wood matters. Preparing children's school lunches. With 6 to 8 children attending school, preparing lunches becomes another substantial pre-dawn task. Everything must be made from scratch because store-bought convenience foods are both expensive and culturally unacceptable. She assembles sandwiches in the lamplight using bread she baked previously, spreading homemade jam, butter, or cheese. Cookies or small treats get included. Fruit comes from preserved supplies. Drinks are prepared in small thermoses. The time investment is substantial. Packing 8 lunches from scratch requires 30 to 45 minutes of focused work. But the cost savings compared to school-provided meals reaches thousands of dollars annually. The lunches represent more than just food. They demonstrate the mother's care and competence. Children whose lunches are inadequate face peer judgment. Teaching daughters this skill begins early, with young girls helping pack lunches for younger siblings. Preparing husbands' needs. Traditional gender roles in Amish culture place a wife's primary responsibility as supporting her husband's work. This manifests in pre-dawn labor that prepares everything he needs before he wakes. His work clothes are laid out. His breakfast will be ready the moment he enters the kitchen. Coffee is hot and waiting. His lunch for field work is packed. Any tools or supplies he mentioned needing the previous evening are located and positioned for easy access. This anticipatory service demonstrates the wife's commitment to enabling his work. Modern perspectives might view this service as oppressive, but Amish women typically understand their role differently. They see supporting their husband's work as spiritual calling rather than forced submission. His physical labor provides the primary income. Her domestic labor makes his work possible. Yet the work remains largely invisible. The husband may not see the hour of preparation that produced his ready breakfast and organized supplies, personal devotions, and prayer. Amidst the physical labor, Amish women carve out brief moments for personal spiritual practice. Before the household wakes and demands overwhelmed quiet reflection, they seek connection with God through prayer and scripture reading. This happens in fragments, stolen minutes while dough rises or water heats, brief interludes of spiritual focus between physical tasks. She might read a few verses from her German Bible by lamplight, familiar passages memorized from years of repetition. The prayer is brief but fervent, asking God for strength to meet the day's demands, for patience with children, for wisdom in managing household resources, for grace to serve without resentment. These prayers acknowledge the burden she carries while seeking supernatural assistance to bear it. This spiritual practice provides perspective on the physical hardship. The work becomes service to God rather than mere drudgery. The fatigue becomes offering rather than complaint. The faith transforms suffering into meaning, creating framework that makes the difficult life bearable and even purposeful. Without this spiritual dimension, the relentless physical demands might feel oppressive and meaningless. The devotional time remains deeply private. She doesn't display her spiritual practice for recognition or praise. It happens in darkness, witnessed only by God. This privacy reflects cultural values about humility and genuine rather than performative faith. Teaching daughters this prayer habit happens through modeling rather than explicit instruction. Young girls observe their mother's early morning devotions and gradually adopt the same practice as they mature into women carrying their own burdens. Final house preparations. As sunrise approaches, but before the family wakes, final preparations ensure the household runs smoothly. Any dishes left from the previous evening get washed and put away. The kitchen is organized for efficient breakfast service, with utensils and serving dishes positioned for quick access. The living areas are tidied, presenting an orderly environment that will greet the family when they emerge from bedrooms. These final touches matter because they reflect the mother's competence and the family's spiritual state. Cultural beliefs link physical order to spiritual condition, making housekeeping a theological concern rather than mere preference. A disorderly home suggests disordered priorities, insufficient attention to proper values. The pressure to maintain appropriate standards begins before the family even wakes. She does final checks on multiple fronts. Is breakfast prep on schedule? Is the bread dough rising properly? Are the children's lunches packed? Is the husband's coffee ready? Are the fires burning at proper temperature? This mental checklist coordinates complex morning operations that must execute flawlessly despite unpredictable variables like wood stove temperatures and exact timing of when family members wake. The coordination required would challenge a professional operations manager. Yet Amish women develop this skill through years of daily practice, learning to juggle multiple simultaneous demands while maintaining calm appearance. Teaching daughters this home management begins early, with girls gradually assuming more morning responsibilities until they can execute the entire pre-dawn routine independently. By the time sunrise arrives and the first light breaks the darkness, Amish women have already worked for 90 minutes or more. The tasks they've completed would occupy a modern woman's entire morning, yet for them, it's merely the foundation for the day's real work. The family wakes to a warm house, hot breakfast, packed lunches, and organized household without witnessing any of the labor that created these conditions. This pre-dawn work happens out of necessity rather than preference. Without modern conveniences that compress morning routines into minutes, every task requires time and physical effort. The wood stove demands attention that thermostats eliminate. Water hauling replaces turning on faucets. From scratch cooking replaces convenience foods. The accumulated effect means rising hours before the family needs breakfast. The physical demands are substantial, walking in darkness to pump water and check animals, hauling heavy buckets across icy ground, kneading bread dough with cold, stiff hands, managing multiple fires while coordinating complex meal preparation. The work would exhaust most modern women within days, yet Amish women sustain this effort daily for decades. The spiritual discipline accompanies the physical labor, creating framework that transforms work into worship. The suffering becomes offering. The service becomes calling. Without this spiritual dimension, the relentless demands might break even the strongest women, but faith provides meaning that makes the burden bearable. Teaching the next generation ensures pattern continuation. Daughters learn by watching their mothers, gradually assuming morning responsibilities until they can execute everything independently. By marriage age, they possess the skills and endurance needed to run their own households using identical patterns. Modern women's mornings present stark contrast. Alarm clocks with snooze buttons allow extra sleep, quick coffee from electric machines, convenience foods requiring minimal preparation, thermostats maintaining comfortable temperatures automatically. The time saved amounts to hours daily, though whether this time gets used productively remains questionable. What we've lost in convenience is debatable. The skills Amish women possess are largely extinct among modern populations. The physical strength they develop, the organizational abilities they demonstrate, the endurance they